We have a fifth line day. We are going through the gate 63, the gate that is called after completion and the gate of doubt. And today we have the fifth line that is called affirmation. When we come to the fifth line, we come to the line of universalization. First line, as we know, establishes the nature of the hexagram, the truth of the hexagram. And we know that the nature of the 63rd hexagram is to be composed in your doubt. But the way in which society and the world sees the hexagram is that they see it as affirmation. In other words, these are people who can prove it for us. This is what we're projecting on them. In the abstract line, when we look at the 64-5, we have the people that everyone thinks can promise them some kind of sense to their abstract confusion. Here it is assumed and projected onto the 63-5 that these people can come up with exactly the right question. Doing so, they can affirm everyone else's question. So these are the kind of people who, in a group situation, they can always ask exactly the question that everybody else really wanted to have asked. Everyone is waiting for them to ask that question because it is projected on them that they will. And remember, it doesn't mean that they can. And then, of course, they have to deal with the result of that projected field. In the exaltation, the authority and sincerity of purpose to pursue the same values in the beginning that allowed it to transcend the old, the understanding that doubts are necessary and of value. This is the general heretic. These are our fifth lines. The general heretic who is never going to offer a question, never going to release a doubt until there is a crisis. And that a new question, that a new solution is going to be necessary, and then in a crisis, is projected onto the 63-5. That they're the ones who in that moment can be the inspiration that is needed. In not offering their doubts, they are giving themselves time to work out whether or not there's even a valuable question. And they're going to raise their doubt in a time of crisis. So they can be very powerful because of that. They can raise their doubt that a formula that should work in the collective, in society, isn't really logical. It's not for the benefit of society. If they question the system in a moment of crisis, under the projection of the other, that doubt, that question will have to be answered. And there can be some real heresy here. The question can be really heretical. Some questions are. All doubts are necessary and of value because the questions will be answered. But always more questions exist, and it is an ongoing process so that the doubt is always feeding this process. Doubt inspires others to come up with answers. Coming up with an answer or a formula is about protecting the collective in the future. That is why the expression out of the G center in this circuit is the alpha, who is going to lead us and protect us as they take us into the future. In the detriment, a tendency in triumph to pay lip service to such values, and given such leadership, these values will be reduced to nothing more than empty rituals, doubting one's very process despite understanding. This happens a lot to the 5 because they have to sit and hold their doubt for a very long time. They have to wait, always waiting for that crisis where they can provide through the projection field their practical solution. If they can't, and they learn quickly in life that there are situations in which the projection field is calling them and they do not have the abilities to fulfill that expectation, then they get to a stage where they are less likely to be called up off the farm for minor crisis, particularly, because they doubt in their own ability to be able to have that kind of impact. That they can raise a question that will challenge the pattern. Heretics get burnt at the stake. Reputations can be at stake. You have to be careful about the questions and the doubt that you put out there. There are so many people who are just into the ritual of doubting. It's always projected onto them anyway that they are full of doubt. So it becomes their way of living in the world. Everyone projects onto them that they doubt, and they nod their head and say, yeah, I'm really suspicious. Yeah, I really doubt this, without being necessarily able to come up with their own questions. And the question is important. It is projected on this line that they're the ones that have the question that will end the doubt and suspicion. But if they do not have it, and because they're under pressure from the moment they come into the world, they can get to the point where on the other side, they just play lip service to the whole process. They say, yeah, I have my doubts. I haven't found the answer yet. And due to the fact that others are projecting on them that they do have an answer or they do have the question, they discover very quickly in life that actually nobody really wants to hear their question. People with this line who have it projected on them that they have doubts and they have suspicion, the moment they can deliver a good question, they have power. Everyone assumes that their question needs to be answered. So these are people who can end up controlling the laboratory. Their name will be on the headline for asking the right question. If you have the right question and then the right answer comes, you can be set free, at least until a mutation comes along and blows the whole thing out of the water. The logical collective is desperately looking for that example. We do accept that 1 and 1 is 2. There are definitely points in our life where we don't doubt certain things anymore. After all, we also have the duality of human design. Every channel, every gate, every line has an inherent duality within it. So the gate of doubt is also the gate of not doubting at all. Doubts are only part of the process. And we don't have to identify with doubt. The whole thing about the logical collective is give me an answer that liberates me from my doubt so that I can go into the future in peace, knowing who I am. Showing people who they are is what human design can do as a logical system. This is the kind of answer that says, here is the fixed mechanic. You don't have to doubt anymore. Once you understand that it is the pattern and you live with it, it's okay. You can get rid of all your doubts and suspicions. So the grounding comes from the 64 in the 5th line, and it is called promise. Promise and affirmation, very similar as we've seen. This is the promise in the abstract circuit that things can be made sense of. Affirmation is the logical side of making sure that the pattern is correct and that there is a question. Oops, my hair's just fallen down. That there is a question that can be answered. A correct question, like how do I get my hair to stay up? Some days it's like, oh, I really shouldn't do anything in my hair at all. Mercury, actually, I'm not going to. Okay, here we go. Mercury is moving into gate 17 tomorrow morning at 5:58, the Ajna gate of opinions. It's in the same stream as our sun in 63, of course. This is where doubts are crafted into questions that are rationalized in gate 4. No, they're formalized in gate 4. I love my ray teaching. I don't know where I'd be without that. They are formalized in gate 4. Forget the rationalized, that's 24. And then they can be made into opinions. And then if the 62 is present, which the moon will actually bring in a few days, then those opinions can be vocalized through recognition, through invitation. All of the gates above the throat are projector gates. Quite a lot of the ones below the throat actually are also projector gates. There are more projector gates and channels than there are of any other type, which tells us that generally as a species we are here to wait for an invitation, recognition and an invitation before we express whatever it is in our mechanic that we are here to bring to the world. So the moon is continuing its journey through the throat gates, currently still in gate 8. It's been there since 3:12 this morning. Next we have gate 20, the gate of contemplation and the now. This is the throat gate that can be a bit of a blurter. It has a voice and it's the gate of the now, so it's not surprising. It's a voice that says, I am now, which doesn't mean it's correct for gate 20 to blurt, of course. The 20 can meet the 34, which would make it a generator energy, and subject to response, Otherwise, all of the ways that a 20 can express either through the 57 or the 10, that should come through invitation. The moon next moves into gate 16, and this is the logical collective voice that says, I experiment, because that's what logic does. It tries, it finds a mistake in the pattern, it tries again. This voice also says, I identify. It really helps if you identify with whatever it is you're having to repeat over and over again, because otherwise there won't be any enthusiasm for it. It will just become a grind. And that's not what this gate is about. This is the gate of skill and enthusiasm. And then the moon hops over to the other side of the body graph in its next transit onto gate 35, the gate of progress and change, the gate of boredom, the gate that says, I feel, which very often means I feel it's time for a change. This is the experiential side of the body graph. This is not the mastery of the 16, but this is about the exploration and discovery of the new. It's been there, it's done that. It wants something different. This is a manifestor energy, and it meets the North Node in gate 36, although we already have Jupiter in 35, so we've been experiencing the jack of all trades as a channel for quite a while now. So tomorrow we are top of the hexagram tomorrow. I look forward to that, the line 6. Until then, enjoy line 5 and the affirmation that can come through it. And yeah, take care. As always, love yourself and go gently.